What are the challenges right now for Better Place?
Challenges are big. We're building up a new industry, or at least a blue ocean, and there are a lot of stakeholders who we need to be absolutely sure that they understand the very deep details about our solution, and that we see eye to eye on this. And we cannot advance without having the NGOs accept or recognize what we are doing. Not accept, we are also learning a lot from these specialists, and we need to adapt all the knowledge that we get from them into our solution. Of course, it's a huge task to rig an entire country with charging spots and battery switch stations, even though the technology is proven and works in Japan and Israel and so on. We also need to make it work here in Denmark. We have a very strong team of technical specialists who in many years have successfully set up new telco networks, and we are exploiting all their expertise for this. We are also very lucky to work in a country where we have engineers, consulting engineers at world class, like Covi, Carlbro, Niras, Alexia, and so forth. And we tap into their expertise in terms of rigging Denmark in the right way. And then of course we have the challenge of actually convincing Danes to adapt this. In Denmark we see consumers being more, based on the analysis that we have done on a worldwide basis, we see that Danes are very well educated. They know about our climate challenges, and they actually want to take part in the climate challenges. Already now most Danish households have fulfilled or completed climate campaigns like little flush, big flush for the kids, when to turn off the lights, when to turn on, print on both sides of the paper and so on. But when it comes to the car, we're talking about something that's very emotional, because this is the freedom to travel wherever you want, whenever you want. And it's not something that you can just say this is a climate deed or something that you should do, if we don't also prove that the solution is actually superior. And this is not something that you do without having Danes sit in the car, drive in the car, give them a quota saying this is how much you save in money, this is actually where you can park your car in the future. Your neighbor will not take your parking spot, at least before he also or she also turns into an EV, or not turns into, but takes an EV. So those are some of the challenges.
Do Better Place make a distinction between sustainability as a phenomenon and between cradle to cradle? And if you do, how do you define that distinction?
Actually, sustainability we see as a holistic thing. First of all, we want to produce a transport solution that's sustainable for the consumer. When we talk about that, it's driving capabilities more than climate effect. If we don't have electric vehicles that are sustainable in terms of being able to drive the consumer wherever they want, whenever they want, in a safe way, that can carry their luggage or tools or papers or whatever that they need for this drive, then that's not sustainable from a user perspective. Cradle to cradle is of course something that we see as a carbon footprint, vocabulary. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but cradle to cradle is for us carbon footprint from extraction of lithium to produce the batteries until actually the lithium is put back in the ground or reused for something else. We have not a full cradle-to-cradle strategy at the moment, but we have a second life strategy for our batteries, because the only place where you can say that the electric vehicles is still a vague climate proposition is on batteries. And we know that the longer we can stretch the life cycle of a battery, the better the carbon footprint will be. Right now we see that we can exploit a new lithium-ion battery for 8-9 years, maybe 10 years as a car battery. After that we will take it out of as a car battery, and then we can either recycle it. Already now there are recycle mechanisms that can reuse all battery components, 95%, close to 100%, the latest I heard. It's a little expensive process for us at the moment. We know that we are 8-9 years away from having the first battery that need to go through this process, so we are of course keen to see the 8-9 years from today being used for optimizing the recycling process and making it more cost efficient. If it's not, then we have a backup strategy where we actually just use the old batteries that we no longer can see fit for car battery, and then we mount them up and use it for storing excess renewable energies for companies with high power consumption. And in times where the share of renewable energy falls in the external power grid, we can then provide our technology solutions so that the companies can tap into the stored renewable energy from our obsolete batteries that we have mounted up in their basement. So all in all, we are confident that we have a few tricks up the sleeve to also make a very, very strong cradle-to-cradle solution.
Do you have any considerations to the scenario that we're going to have a lot of cars that need to get electricity from the contemporary energy system?
We have, of course, had a lot of help from authorities like Danish Energy, and they have helped us simulate what will the indirect CO2 emission be for an electric vehicle, given the fact that we will also be charging at times where there's little renewable energy or zero renewable energy. They have been very thorough in taking our solution apart and trying to calculate what will the emission be in average, based on the fact that you are charging electric vehicles in times where the wind is blowing hard, when the wind is not blowing, at nighttime where there's no constraints on the power grid, and in times where we're all cooking our meatballs and watching TV and having a high power consumption, where we also in sometimes of course need to charge electric vehicles for consumers who need to drive immediately and far. And their calculations say that we will be at worst in electric vehicles charging a better placed network will at worst have a 55 gram CO2 per kilometer emission. That's in contrast with the average Danish car stock, which is 194 gram CO2 per kilometer. Of course, a lot of the cars in the Danish car stock are old, so if we just take a brand new car, average car, registered, imported to Denmark with internal combustion engine, the average CO2 emission per kilometer is 150 some grams, give and take. So essentially, an electric vehicle based on the power mix that we have today, with the level of renewable energy that we have today in Denmark, 17% and 83% from coal and gas and so on, we deliver a 3 times more efficient solution with electric vehicles compared to the conventional world that we have today. Our ambition, of course, is to come as close to zero as possible. There are many ways that this can be achieved. First and foremost, to actually deliver the solution that allows governments and power plants to actually set up more renewable energy, even though that it's a variable source that sometimes produce more power than we use and sometimes less. And we have gone across that, how electric vehicles is a solution for that. Secondly, when we do charge, and it sometimes is from coal, the electrons, then we can we have worked with different NGOs to actually set up a strategy for how we can say without a doubt that our subscribers who use our network are actually CO2 neutral. We know that there are aspects of the EU quota system that is not working as it was originally intended, and right now we haven't made a fix on it yet, but we know that we have different opportunities, either investing directly in establishing more wind power, which is of course business synergy to our business, and there are other ways that we are currently discussing with the Ecological Council, with WWF and other important stakeholders.